Hey guys, this is Anya. Welcome back to Roots of Aurora. It's been a really long time since I posted a video, since I recorded a video. But I became a mom in February. February 15th, my son was born. So my priorities have just been, obviously, he's been my main priority. But what's kind of fun is that I've actually felt my spiritual practice, my spiritual path, and my card work that they have deepened and become, really evolved since becoming a mom. I know it's very common to be like, oh, I have like absolutely no time for myself. And I definitely have less time for myself. Definitely. Because, like a baby takes up so much of your time. He is 6 months old now. And in a way, I do feel like he is becoming a little bit more independent right now. But yeah, I have been very busy. I've been making him a priority. But at the same time, like the little like half hours I've had to myself, I must say that I've become so much better at actually spending my time in a mindful way. Like when he goes for a nap these days, I know that, okay, so I have 30 minutes to myself at least. Like if I'm lucky, it's going to be an hour and a half. And I'm saying lucky, not like I don't want to take care of him or spend time with him, but just he's in a much better mood when he gets good naps instead of short naps. So I know that I have like 30 minutes to myself. And in the past, when I had 30 minutes to myself, I could just basically, honestly, like completely waste that time. But these days I don't. Like I immediately decide, like, okay, I have half an hour. I'm going to clean the kitchen and brush my teeth or whatever it may be. But or if I'm doing like more of a like something personal for myself, I decide, okay, I have half an hour. I'm going to sit with this deck and this spread and journal about these things. And I actually had a lot of not a lot of, but I had issues with this in the past. I was so good at procrastinating and, yeah, like frankly, just wasting my time. So in that way, I really feel like I spend my time so much more mindfully these days. Hence, my card work really has deepened, and I've really been so much better at planning ahead. Like planning, I'm doing this workshop by some teacher of mine, or I'm using this workbook to dig into like this sort of subject or this deck or whatever it may be. So that's been really good for me. And I've really felt myself connect so much more with my spiritual path and with my decks than I did a year ago, to be honest with you. So I'm really happy about that, because I know that a fear of mine was that I was going to lose myself. I was going to lose my personality and my identity when I became a mom. Because honestly, I've had quite a few friends that kind of did that, and some of them never really came back, and they just kind of stayed this 100% mom type of person. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just personally did not want to let go of parts of myself that I see as really important. And for me personally, it is really important that I stay connected to my hobbies, interests, passion, my faith, my belief, my spiritual path, and yeah, like things that are important to me. And my partner feels the same way. also about himself, staying himself, but also about me being able to, because yeah, it's also very common that mothers um, just give up everything for their child, and the father is just living his normal life, and we're not doing that sort of parenting. We are very equal, I have to say, and I'm really happy with that. But with that said, the reason I am recording a video today, which is August 24th, and the year is 2024. The reason I'm recording today is because exactly 20 years ago, I bought my first tarot deck. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I have probably told this story in the past on my channel, but you know, it is what it is. I'm just going to go with this because it's my 20-year anniversary since I bought a tarot deck. And I think that is so much fun. And as I remember buying my first deck, and I did not have any clue that it would mean so much to me. I had no idea. So the reason I bought a tarot deck was that I had been like dabbling in witchcraft, new age, and similar things for a little while. At this time, I had just turned 17. And I had already been like reading about witchcraft and things like that for maybe like 3 years, I think. I was quite early thinking about these things. And I also didn't have like religious parents or anything, so no one was trying to steer me in any sort of religious direction or anything. So I was very free in that way. So I was curious about tarot, but I also understood that, like, okay, a deck is 78 cards. Am I really, I thought, am I gonna have to memorize 78 different meanings? And it just seemed really complicated to me. So I was like a little bit insecure about getting a tarot deck myself and learning about tarot. But eventually, I pulled the plug. I did. And at this time, in the year 2004, I have to say that, like, if you weren't around back then, the internet was a really small place. And you couldn't just go online, find a video, and see every card in a deck. That just wasn't available. The best I could do, I remember this, was going to Eclectic Tarot and looking for a deck and see maybe 6 cards from that deck, or maybe like 8 cards or 10 cards if I was lucky. That's how I remember that they did post. They did have like a review up of many decks, and I looked at the cards, and that's like all I could do. I couldn't really see more cards, and I would go to this shop in my hometown. It's still around. It's Stengården, if you are from my hometown of Borås. And I walked in, and you know, I don't remember things like in detail because this was 20 years ago. But I do know that I wanted the Goddess Tarot because it felt like, how should I put this? I was very like into feminism and goddess energy and just like the sacred feminine. And it felt like that was a good choice of a deck. Now that I look back, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see this as a really good beginner's deck because the major arcana is quite different from the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But I didn't know that back then, and I got the deck. This deck that you're seeing is not the deck I got. I gifted that deck a couple of years later. It was also a pocket edition, which I have learned through the years that I dislike. I like my tarot decks quite large, like, you know, like standard tarot size. I don't like them playing card size or pocket size or anything like that. But I got it. I went home and I went on my live journal, which was the blog of that time, like a blog platform. And I logged on and I wrote that I had bought this tarot deck and I was going to learn tarot. That is how I know that it was 20 years ago. Because it's so easy to look up in a digital journal, right? So yeah, I got it, and the day after I actually posted about a spread I did. I drew like the Ace of Cups. I think I drew the Seven of Cups also. And I was very much going by the little white book that I got with the deck. Like many of us started back then. Like, I don't know, I think that people are smarter these days when learning tarot, but back then, many of us just, pulled the cards, looked at them quickly, and then just looked at the so-called meanings, trying to connect it to a question and so on. But I also actually purchased a book with the deck, but it was Gerd Ziegler's, what is it called? It's like Mirror of the Soul. Is it? It's still around. I know the book is around. But it is a Thoth book, so it didn't fit this deck at all, and I quickly discovered that, so I was so disappointed. But this was the problem with the internet. Just wasn't a big place back then. You couldn't find a really good half-hour video that just told you like the best tips, like how do you choose your first deck, how do you choose the first book, and so on, how do you learn. So I had to really go with like trial and error here. I do know I also use one online source along with Eclectic Tarot, and that was learntarot.com, which has been around forever, obviously. But yes, this was my first deck, and I repurchased the deck a couple of years ago, and I got the like standard size. But I have actually trimmed it so it doesn't have the white borders around it anymore. I also edged it in gold, but I don't like, yeah, you can see it. It's fine. I don't really modify decks these days because, I don't know. I just don't. I'm going to show you a couple of the cards, but I still feel very fondly of this deck. I still think of it in like I don't know, it does warm my heart a little bit, like obviously because it was my first deck. And I don't know exactly when I purchased my second or third deck, but I actually think that it wasn't very I don't know, I think it maybe took me like just a couple of months to get a new deck. Not because I disliked this one, but because I really wanted something. I did discover the whole, like Rider-Waite-Smith thing. And I think, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, that my second tarot deck was the Universal Waite Tarot. Don't know if it's still sold, but I don't really like it personally anymore because I feel like it's a very washed out version. Like the colors are just so bleak and boring. So it's not a favorite of mine. But yeah, what I wanted at the time was to learn like traditional. I wanted to look at the traditional cards, and I have to say, I've personally always felt like the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot is, in my eyes, a very beautiful deck. I like the artwork. I like the deck. So yeah, my first deck, I kept working with this for a couple of years every now and then. But I would say that after a while I did get other favorites. A year later, for my 18th birthday, my boyfriend at the time got me the Robin Hood Tarot. And that was a huge favorite of mine at the time. I don't have that deck anymore, but I was really, really connected to it at the time. So I have to say that from the start, I did not have a soul deck or a home deck or however you want to refer to a deck that is like, oh, the one for you. Um, I always felt like I wanted a variety of decks. I always felt like I wanted to kind of have different decks to fit different moods, different like spreads or themes to read on, and so on. So I always had like a little bit of a collection, but I mean, I have a big collection these days. I have like 50 tarot decks actually. And at that time, I think, I don't know how many I had, maybe like 7. Like after working with my first deck, the Goddess Tarot, and my second deck, the Universal Weight, I did acquire maybe, yeah, like a few more. But I never had many decks because at that time I really didn't have many many options to buy decks, I would say. And I also didn't have any money because I was in my late teens. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I did not have a lot of money when I was 18. So yeah, I was always happy with my small collection. But I also want to say about this, like, beginning of my journey with tarot, that I mean, from what I remember, my idea of tarot and how I read the cards, I mean, I definitely had a more immature approach to it. I bought the deck as a little bit of a fun thing and like, oh, it would be cool to be a fortune teller, read the cards for my friends and tell them what's coming up in their lives. Yeah, I definitely had that idea, but as I learned more, especially from Eclectic Tarot Forum, there were amazing readers posting there, and I learned so much. And I really learned about how like psychology and reflection, self-reflection could become a part of your tarot reading. And so I would say, like, pretty early on, maybe like, I don't know, a year into my tarot journey, I did start to pick up the fact that tarot wasn't just this fun fortune telling thing. It was also, it could also be a tool for self-development, self-reflection, just understanding yourself and others and the world in a different way. It would still take a couple of years before I connected tarot to my spiritual journey, but at least I did pretty quickly pick up on, a little bit more of a psychological approach, and reading a bit about Jung and how to approach the cards in a more intuitive way, but also a more inner world focused way. Not just like, oh, you're gonna meet a cute guy at that party, but more like, do you want to date someone? Why or why not? Like, what are you actually looking for? So I've always been so grateful that Eclectic Tarot was around, because I learned so much from that forum. I learned so much during a time when really I couldn't go out and buy like 10 different tarot books and learn. They just weren't as available, which is so like weird to think back on, because that's not what we see today. And I did want to say that what I've noticed in the last few years is that I personally haven't been too positive about this, and I'm still not, but I've seen a lot of young readers come to tarot, and and they're like instantly they go on some Facebook group, and they go, oh, I got a tarot deck last week and I want to become a professional tarot reader. I want to have a big YouTube channel. How do I do this? And like, to me, that's just so like, what do you actually want? Do you actually want to learn about tarot? Do you want to read tarot? Or do you just want to find a way to make money being like a small business owner? Or do you want to be like a little bit famous on YouTube or in social media? Yeah, to me, that's just like, it feels a little bit shallow. I'm not gonna lie, it does feel a little bit shallow. Because I didn't see that back on Eclectic. I didn't see young people come on and be like, oh, I just get a tarot deck. Now, how do I become a famous tarot reader? It just wasn't about that. And I kind of miss those days when it wasn't a thing. Like, you didn't buy a tarot deck to become a 6-figure business owner or have like a famous channel or famous TikTok or whatever. You actually wanted to, somehow learn about the cards. Like, even it was silly. Like, for me, it was a little bit silly. I wanted to look into the future, but it wasn't about making money in any way. And yeah, I kind of miss that a little bit. I've seen those people come and go in the community. Especially, I mean, I'm sorry if this is going to piss some of you off, but especially a couple of different guys. They get a tarot deck. They go on YouTube and they talk about how like what a deep connection they have with tarot, and they try to make it sound like they have learned tarot for a lot longer than they have, and then they open up like a shop and they sell readings, and they have a YouTube channel that just grows like boom really fast, and they become like quote unquote big in the community, because it's a small community. Like, you're not going to gain 4 million followers in a year. It's just not going to happen. So they are like, big in this small community. But then it's so obvious that they just kind of figure out that after, I don't know, a year or two, it's not what they thought it would be. Like, they may even get like published. They may even have like book published or something like that. Or they are on some really big channel or similar, getting interviewed. But then it's just so obvious that it's not what they thought, and they don't have a really deep connection with tarot. So they just kind of get tired of it, and they quite quickly, like suddenly, they're gone. I don't know, I've seen it so many times. Like, you have to remember, I've been around in this community for a long time. Not in any way to not to be like, oh, I'm this teacher, but just to connect with others who like tarot. So I've been around and I've seen that so many times. Like, they become really popular because it's so, again, sorry, this is offensive, but it's so typical of women in a group to get really excited if a man walks in. It's like, oh, finally, the men are opening up their eyes to tarot. Yay. And I'm always like, oh. Yeah. But I've seen it time and time again. I think that if you come to tarot just because you want to be this cool reader who has a big name in the community, who wants to be a published author because it seems cool, it seems like an easy way to make money. If you come to tarot like that, I don't think you're gonna find what you're looking for. Like, yeah. just what I think. I think you will get sick of it if you're not passionate about tarot, like truly passionate. If you're not like deeply connecting with the soul of tarot, I think you're going to, you're going to get tired of it. It's not gonna last. It's gonna be a fling and not a true love, so to speak. But these days I read a lot for myself. I rarely read for other people. I did for a while sell readings on Etsy. Just because I felt so called to read for others. And at that point, I had been reading tarot for, more than 10 years. So it wasn't like a sudden idea I had to sell readings. I was really called to read for others. I also read for others when I started to study at university when I turned 20. I used to have a deck with me to parties, of course. So it was a fun thing. I didn't charge for those readings. It was just a fun thing. But yeah, these days I mainly read for myself, and I do read in a very self-reflective way. I like to work with spreads or prompts that I can really, where I can really sit and reflect and think about my behaviors, my patterns, my feelings, my thoughts, where I've come from, what I can learn from the past, all of these things, shadow work. That's what I mainly use tarot for. And also I use tarot to connect in with my spiritual path, to communicate with deity, with spirit guides, all of those things. So I would say my practice has definitely deepened and evolved into something I'm really, really passionate about and in love with. Like, I'm so in love with my card work. It's really something that helps me, that guides me, and that just in a way really like calms me down. When I get to sit with my cards and journal, I also really feel anger, sadness, and things like that get sorted out, and I understand myself so much better when I work with tarot in that way. So 20 years with tarot, I am really proud and happy about that, because I'm also one of those people, I know you're out there, that used to jump between different hobbies and interests. But tarot has obviously lasted me like half of my life, almost. No, more than half of my life. Oh my God. I did not think that was going to happen when I got my first tarot deck. But it really has become something I'm so in love with. And my collection of decks that I really, really adore. And I also don't feel like I don't have to buy new decks all the time. I'm really happy with my collection, and it feels so good to be satisfied in that way and just hold on to my like oldies but goodies. I like to call many of my decks. This is definitely an oldie but goodie. I also got this book just a couple of years ago. I have not read it because, I don't know, lack of time. It doesn't seem like the most super in-depth book, to be honest with you. It doesn't give you that much, but oh well, it's still it's still a book I intend to read in the near future, just to like reconnect a little bit with my first deck. I use it every now and then, So even though it's not like a huge favorite of mine, I use it every now and then, and it gives me good, clear readings. It does actually connect me very well to the sacred feminine in different ways. Yeah, I'm thinking that's basically all I wanted to say. I wanted to share my story with you, how I got my first deck and why, and how my practice has evolved during the years. Yeah, it's been a fun ride. I if I could, I would recommend anyone and everyone to get a tarot deck just for themselves, not at all to read like for others or anything like that, because it comes with a lot of pressure, I think, sometimes. But just to like jump into a self-reflective practice, because these days we're so stressed out. We're always going, and everything is like high energy. We are constantly on our phones getting like those kicks from different algorithms wanting us to click on their app and things like that. And it's just, the mind is always racing in this world. So for me, tarot has been the solution. It has really helped me to slow down, to sit down with a pen, a journal, and a card deck, and actually just reflect and ponder and not hurry, not get any like dopamine kicks, but just kind of slow down. And that's really important today when we live in this fast-paced world, to actually go against that a little bit. And yeah, so that's, that is something, that is one of the reasons why I have a channel, why I have an Instagram account, because I do want to inspire others to get their own deck of cards and connect with that deck and use that deck in a way that helps them reflect and grow from within, and not just make money and manifest a big business and things like that. Like, do we need more tools that bring us money? I kind of wonder. I don't think we do. But yeah, it's basically all I wanted to say. So happy 20th anniversary to me and my decks. And I'll see you when I see you guys. Bye.